a pleasure and a privilege to introduce our final, it's crazy to think, the final school tour that we're going to get this week. And kind of cool to end on what a big, powerful note here from the Olentangy STEM Academy in Lewis Center, Ohio. So they're a public high school half-day alternative learning program emphasizing education and critical thinking, collaboration, and creativity through hands-on, globally relevant activities. If that hasn't been a key theme of this week, I don't know what has been. You guys are doing something right. So this curriculum integrates various disciplines, encouraging students to innovate, solve real-world problems, and conduct meaningful research. The learners also gain experience by working alongside professionals in diverse STEM fields, specializing in biomedical or engineering. And I can't wait to hear more about that too. But I'll go ahead and turn it over to Karen. Probably you're going to be speaking here first about your work at the Olentangy STEM Academy. Take it away.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone for giving of their time and their knowledge and their experience. This has just been such a every August or end of July, August, when you're gearing up for the school year, I feel like this is exactly what I needed to be that like jump start to think about this new school year. And like I said, it's like I'm back in college. I've taken like copious notes through the notebook, just all the ideas, all the professionals really across this country who have committed to this. And this work of this restoration, the work that you're doing, Chris and Nick, is just, I love it. And I can't wait to be more a part of it. And I appreciate that you've made space for us to showcase what we do here at STEM, because we're pretty darn proud. I am Karen Sidoti. I'm the principal of Olentangy Academy. I've been with the Olentangy schools for 14 years. I started my career as an assistant principal at Orange High School. This is my 32nd year in education. I've taught everything from very suburban. My husband and I lived out in Las Vegas for a stint, so I was out there in this very large, at the time, 5th largest school district in the country. Learned some of my best teaching out there among students and my colleagues. And then we made our way back to the Midwest. So this is a little screenshot of our building. As you can see, there's like a colored demarcation. So the original is on the left, and our new addition that is just being completed is on the right. With us today from our staff it's Kelsey Smith. She teaches our math and our computer science. She's one of my building leadership team members. We have the Gus Teller, great hair, great stories, great historian. He just knows how to tell history and make it come alive. Claudia Wade, you will be hearing from her, especially when it comes to the senior experience. She is our senior mentorship coordinator, and she does a phenomenal job of finding our community partnerships and pairing students with potential career focuses and interests. And she has no shame in her game. She takes her business cards wherever she goes, whether she's at a doctor appointment, she's at a concert, she's trying to figure out who is the next community partner. And then Candace Barchi, I'm not sure if Candace hopped on yet, but hopefully she will. She is one of our 2 intervention specialists with our program. So what is OA? Just kind of in a nutshell, here we are. We were this Ohio State University, the Ohio State University satellite building that the district purchased. We took their block O red and we painted it blue and called it Olentangy. We are this place that has, again, the soft spaces. And what we mean by that is we don't operate on bells. We let kids go. Again, it's not all completely carte blanche, go where you want to go, do what you want to do, but we do move differently in this building, and there is a lot more freedom and liberty in this building for our students. We have flexible seating, flexible schedules, flexible spaces. We rotate classrooms. We have lots of general meeting spaces, both for staff and for students. Again, we just love operating with no bells. To get into the academy, especially the STEM program, it is a lottery-based system. All you want is an interest in doing something and maybe learning something different, taking a leap of faith, and wanting to do something different that may make you stand out a little differently in your home high school. Students here do not come all day. They come during intervals of the day, depending on their grade level and depending on their pathway. Every year we let 100 students into the program. So our counselor, Mr. Glue, who's just second to none, he's phenomenal. He goes out during December to our rising freshmen as 8th graders. He pitches what we are, what we do, and it's simply just an application-based Google form. The lottery happens, and students who are selected have the opportunity to say, yes, I want the seat. No, I don't. If they decline, there is a waiting list, and we just kind of move down the line based on the school. So we pull from 4 high schools to create this STEM experience and this STEM kind of culture over here. Again, our philosophy is we really do plan with MTSS in mind. We are very action oriented. We don't just talk about the student problems, we solve the student problems. Sometimes we bring those students into the design of a solution, down to the individual student. We see students, we see the whole student. So this notion of holism that we talked about earlier in the week is exactly how we approach every learner in this building, or that's our goal and our aim. We do meet either bi-weekly, by grade level, or by the pathway. So the devil's in the details, and these guys are the best at it. I am a part of those meetings, but I'm really more there to say, what do you need and what can I do to help move the machine forward? I believe in the philosophy of hiring the best, letting them do their thing, being a yes person as much as I can, and getting the heck out of the way so that they can do the great work. Just a couple documents that are kind of our governing documents. When I first came to the program, I'm going into my 7th year. I asked the team that was going to be our first set of seniors the year I came in 1819. You know, who are we? What are we about? What makes us who we are? And the staff kind of got together and came up with this notion of core values. And GRID is our acronym. We live by the idea of growth mindset, resiliency, integrity, and teamwork. The other things that you see listed there, the characteristics or the dispositions we really try to aim at is, again, I won't read it all to you, but this is how we work and operate. So no matter what we do in this building, whether we're Teacher Academy, the Academy for Community Transition, which is an adult program for students who have met their extended standards with the state of Ohio, but they're going on to work on their transition goals, that embodies what ACT is. And then we have the STEM program. We believe in inclusive learning. So there's a lot of things that we do where all 3 programs kind of come together to do that inclusivity learning. Our culture is everything here. It's the backbone of what we do. So on the core values is kind of the how we operate, and the goals of our kind of this portrait of a learner. The purposeful, resilient, curious, and kind is for our district. So that's the district portrait of a learner. Those are the dispositions we aim for all of our graduates. But then underneath that, we said, well, we do some unique work here in the academy. So what can we take from our dispositions? And so we came up with this notion of the adaptability, the professionalism, being inquisitive, collaborative, and resilient. And so you'll see in the pictures that there's all kinds of examples from Teacher Academy to STEM to the ACT program that embodies what we aim and hope to do as our kids move through our programs. Again, the pathway is you come ninth graders spend in STEM the most time in our building. And then it kind of reduces each year. Then 10th grade is a half day. And again, we teach the cores. It's just, we teach the same standards as what we do at the home high school. It's just the way we do it, how we do it, the projects that we do with it. We are very heavily hands-on, very heavily project-based learning. And we even give kids time for their own discovery. We call that their genius hour. So that is incorporated into all 4 grade levels. Then at the end of their 10th grade year, they get to determine a couple things. Am I heading back to the home high school? Will I maybe take an opportunity to go to our vocational school? It's the Delaware Area Career Center here. Or am I going to stay on and stay within the STEM program? It's there that they pick their track. Biomedical, we're going to now call biotechnical, because it broadens kind of what kids can do, as well as it's more of an industry reflective title, and then or an engineering. So that's where they really narrow that focus, really narrow their passion. These kids are said, I want to do something in healthcare, or I want to do something under the very broad umbrella of engineering. And so this is where like the fun really begins, because they procured a lot of learning and a lot of PBLs and a lot of experiences. They've gotten to maker spaces in the 9th and 10th grade year. And this is kind of where the rubber meets the road, and they really start to get serious about what do I want to do once I close this chapter of high school. And then the senior is what we call our crown jewel. This is where they're in the building the least, but they never want to leave. When they come, they just want to hang out. 2 things happen in their senior year. They have to do 2 mentorship placements, 1 in each semester, 10 weeks long. So they're not here in the building very much, because they're out in a workforce site learning on the job, like what they hope to do or experience. Then the second thing they have to do is a capstone research project. This research project is a passion choice. It's something that they want to figure out, what they want to learn more about, what they want to immerse themselves in, and that is of their choice. So our senior team does a phenomenal job of just kind of punctuating their experience and really saying, like, look at what all you've done, and now look at where you've arrived at. And so it's just, it's a gift. It's a real gift.
Thanks, Karen. I'm Kelsey. Again, I am the math and computer science teacher, and I've been at OA since its founding year, so we're going on 10 years. And before that, I was with Teach for America, teaching in Newark, New Jersey, and in Harlem, New York. So this was a really cool opportunity for me to work with a different population of kids and to found something really unique to Olentangy. And one of my very first students from Olentangy is here now as an alumni, a college and high school alumni. So Calvin, you've also seen it from the beginning. But one of our biggest themes for the last few years has been student agency. And with some of the work that I've been able to do with Chris and the Martha Jennings Holding Foundation, we've really come to the conclusion that you can't have student agency without staff agency. And so we are super lucky that we have Karen, who that really trickles down from the top. She lets us try things, she lets us fail at things, and that theme kind of permeates for us with our kids too. Like, try something. Yeah, if it fails, then that's something we still have learned from that. So the fact that that's a culture among staff and students, I think, is really powerful for our entire learning community. And so what that looks like is interdisciplinary projects. Our first few years, we really kind of tried to force like whole school projects. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. It just didn't feel as organic. So now what we really do is teachers can collaborate across grade levels, across pairs. Like sometimes Gus and I will just kind of collaborate on a project. And we really have the agency to seek out what each other's strengths are and each other's curriculum to make truly authentic learning experiences, rather than just really forcing the idea of PBL. If it's not natural, you know, the kids aren't engaged in it, we are fighting it. So we've become a lot more organic with how we collaborate as a team. We try as much as possible to give kids multiple pathways and options with our projects, and even just within our class, our own disciplines. Something else we've really been able to dive into since COVID, it gave us all as a team a really good reset to look at what our grading policies are like. So as a team, we are all pretty different on what our policies look like, but we've all kind of leaned into the idea of retakes, standards-based grading, everything as a repeated opportunity to show success or to try something. We still have normal tests, we still have normal quizzes, but being more intentional with what we're asking students to do and why we're asking them to do that. A lot of us have revisited the idea of homework. I don't believe in homework anymore. I'm sorry, Calvin and alumni who were there in my early years when I was like, homework. But, you know, we've kind of backed off from that with research and just some other practices that we found are more impactful in front of students during the day. And then something else we have is we do have a lot of unstructured time. Not a lot, but we have unstructured time. We have 2 opportunities a week of 40 minutes where our entire staff is unscheduled, and so are our kids. So we group the kids strategically into, we call it office hours, different rooms. And from there, they can meet with different teachers, work on different projects. And to be honest, sometimes they're just gaming on their phones. And that's something we've also sort of leaned into as, we want students to have agency over their own time. So we sometimes need a reset with kids, and that's what we work with our school counselor on a lot. And as a team, like, hey, we need to try to get this student to focus more during their office hours, but we still honor that as our students' time as well.
Right. Thank you, Kelsey. I'm Gus Teller. I'm the social studies czar of the building. I'm the only social studies teacher there. And I'm going to talk a little bit about just some of our project-based learning activities and, collaboration among students. So I've been teaching for a little. I came teaching late. Actually, I was 37 years old when I started teaching. I taught in Virginia. I taught middle school for quite a bit of time and some high school, and then was super lucky to get this gig. Let me talk a little bit about project-based learning. As Kelsey said, we've worked hard to think about projects and problems that will appeal to our kids, given some of their interests. Also keeping in mind, though, that we do have to teach certain things. But we really start off with emphasizing project-based learning from day one. So some of these pictures here are actually from the first few days of school. With our freshmen, we want them working together, immediately getting comfortable with each other. And so the initial projects that they do are pretty basic, spaghetti towers, things of that nature, very first day, just to get them used to working with each other and collaborating. For sophomores, the project to start is a little bit bigger, get the kinks out of the summer break. Sometimes they'll work on a trebuchet project or bottle rocket series. That's what that bottom picture sort of depicts. And we work on PBLs throughout the year. We really work hard to try and get them to communicate to kids' interests, but also get across certain skills that they're going to need. One in particular, I guess, that I'll highlight because my English teacher and we teach English and history together in an interdisc fashion. We've worked really hard at coming up with a way to teach imperialism by having kids create a project or a completed project, a board game documenting the colonized and those doing the colonization. And what's cool about this activity is kids have an interest in games. And so there's some initial buy-in, but then they realize there's a lot of complexity to these games. There's a lot of complexity to imperialism. The challenge is, how do I craft a game that incorporates the history, but also does that in the gameplay itself? How do I use my engineering skills to create some of the pieces that we're going to need? If I've got an interest in science, what's something I can learn about the environment that I might incorporate into the gameplay? So there's a number of ways to approach it, but the end product is a standalone game that can be played by anyone that the students create. And in the process, they're also learning about a very important piece of modern world history. So that's one example. You can see in that lower picture there in the lower left-hand corner that students working together right there, they're just whiteboarding their game, they're gaming it out, they're figuring out a way to make it work. That process has also involved them playing a number of other games. Other types of PBL in the physical science side, Ms. Daup, our science teacher, who's fantastic, has had students programming spheros to navigate in water and complete a competition. And so they're having to figure out the buoyancy of the spheros, how to program it effectively. Just another way in which to learn about physical science, but also giving them a hands-on way to do it that has more buy-in. If we go to the next slide, again, you can't really do the PBLs without learning how to collaborate together. And we obviously need the students collaborating during the PBLs, and you can see, again, these are just some more examples of them doing that. But we try and have our activities use kids' skills together so that they can work together to learn things. And when you think about it, that's how the real world, whatever that means, tends to function anyway. We've got people working in teams. They have to learn how to work together. It can make a big job a lot easier. We've been incredibly lucky with good kids that are able to figure out their strengths. We do spend a lot of time also at the beginning making sure we've got good pairings. And as Kelsey mentioned, we learn from what we do. Sometimes it doesn't always work well, but we've got a whole year to kind of tinker with it, and the students can also figure out how to work well in that process. And so it's an exciting place to be because the kids catch on pretty quickly about working together. And for the most part, they're excited about some of these projects that we have the ability to do also because we're just a smaller building than a gigantic high school. All right, I think this is where Miss Wade will come in, maybe.
I don't think we can hear you for some reason.
Yeah.
You're unmuted, but we can't hear you.
I can start talking about it until Claudia gets her audio back on. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah,
okay.
Yours is good.
So we have shifted more strongly towards showcasing our success and really letting our students celebrate what they've worked on. So in these slides here, these are actually senior presentations. So at the end of the year, actually, that's not true. The top right corner is a junior presentation, but the other ones are senior presentations. So they spend their time working on their internship for, I believe it's 2 10-week internships. And they get to showcase what they've learned in sort of a professional poster way. So this is something that we've shifted towards in the last year, and actually having a senior showcase where they are with all the other seniors and the community leaders as well that they've worked with. And it just gives them an opportunity to show off their professionalism that they've learned in addition to the skills that they learned in the discipline that they've been working towards. So we got the opportunity to do student focus group interviews. And Chris, I can't remember if it was you that ran the interviews, but it was very telling for us that the things that we're doing in our school, we kind of fly under the radar. We're small in a gigantic district. So the feedback we get sometimes feels like an echo chamber. We feel like we're doing great things. The kids feel like they're doing great things. But this was the first time that we got to have HRP come in and do like an unbiased focus group with our students and get back some blind data from students just kind of talking about what we do. So some of the big themes that we took from it were that kids love the fact that STEM has a diverse environment. They come from 4 different high schools. And I love in the fall, they're all going to each other's homecomings, and then in the spring it's proms, and it's just beyond the walls of our school where they are coming together from all kinds of different backgrounds, different interests in STEM, and then getting to know other perspectives. So it's a really good way to start to practice those skills that they would see in the community and in college in the future if they choose to go that route of working with different people. A lot of other things that came out of it were that the kids seemed to notice that and we were very happy that they noticed this, try to make our learning extremely purposeful. I teach math, so it's sometimes hard for me to explain to a student why triangle proofs are important, and all of these kids have had me in geometry. So, sometimes we're backed into a corner of certain content, but we do try our best to make it as purposeful as possible, and that seemed to come out in the focus group as well. And then because Olentangy is so big, our students are graduating with classes of up to 600 kids. That STEM being with 100 kids is like a small town. That sometimes can be, good and bad. They're together all day. A lot of personalities together all day, but in our STEM community. But they like that they have this little pool of like-minded friends in terms of what they're interested in studying and the type of learning that they'd like to study. And so that's been a good way to uplift our students. I'm not sure if Claudia's microphone's working yet. No, I'm sorry. So we do have a couple of alumni perspectives, and we have an alumni on our panel that we'll get to shortly here. But Catherine Lee was one of our first students. She graduated from Vanderbilt and is now working on her PhD in mechanical engineering. And she has always been a big proponent of our program, and we've loved following her journey. She comes back every spring break, every winter break, just to check in and say hi. And I know Chris will be sharing this presentation with others so they can read a little bit more specifically about her feedback. But she's actually designing, prosthetics, which is what she said she wanted to do when she was 14 years old. So it's really cool to have seen her now 10 years later working towards that dream, and the little steps that we were able to do as a team to support her along the way. Hannah is another student, and she started off in our engineering program as well. She was super quiet, super reluctant sometimes to work in groups. And here she is now, giant SEC University, working on her aerospace engineering degree. And we've just loved watching her blossom and giving her those opportunities through Claudia's mentorship program to work on some really challenging stuff at a young age.
I don't know what's going on here. We got two folks we can't hear. Candace, for whatever reason, we don't hear anything on your end. We might be fixing
Can
that.
we hear Candace?
We got new work.
If not, that's okay.
Yeah, we got new work.
I can take it. And I'm sorry, I took off for a minute. My computer froze and I had to reboot it. And then Zoom did an update, all the good things that like technology likes to do at the most inopportune time. So our why, we start with this, like, what is your why? Finding your why. And it's okay for kids to like not have their why nailed down. It's okay for kids to shift their why or grow their why or discover a new why. That's really what we're about. So it is really about creating a space for every student in our building. And, Candace being an intervention specialist, we are not gifted and we are not, we are all the things for all the students. We take you exactly the way you show up to us. And we just have these personal conversations that just ask the question, what do you want to do? And let's make space to make that happen. And so it is really understanding students. It is really understanding, like, in fact, Mrs. McCleary, one of our teachers, she's not on the call today, but she does something that we've adopted in this building called the Manual of Me. I mean, that's one of the first things we do is tell us about you, the human. We want to know what makes you tick, what excites you, what irritates the heck out of you, like what can't you stand, like what is a non-negotiable for you. It is just like this beautiful manual, and we take care of this in the first couple days every year so that we have like almost like this instruction guide of kind of a window into kids and just what makes them who they are as beings. And so we love that. And that's kind of what we start with. And that's how we actually very organically build a lot of the experiences that we do each year, is just by knowing the students who are sitting in front of us, and not just as students, but as humans, and having those kinds of conversation. We thrive on that.
That actually goes really nicely into the next slide, which is about our grade level meetings that we have every week. And I came actually from having just taught middle school, and this does in many ways remind me of the middle school model, in the sense that we met often as teams, and it's just invaluable. We have the opportunity to sit down once a week. We discuss on the academic side, what's going on in terms of what are teachers trying to accomplish, but always when we're discussing that, we're thinking about how is this going to play out, in a student's life that seems increasingly busy. How can we tweak the schedule to make it manageable, to still have high expectations, but also take into account what the kids are going through. And so those weekly meetings are just so valuable in that regard. Kelsey already mentioned the flexible grading and homework. We work really hard at, again, having those high standards, but also understanding that in the current environment, and just in terms of how much students are involved with, there's the ability to be flexible with some of the grading, or to be flexible if there is homework, and thinking about the homework load and making adjustments. Mr. Glue, who's already been mentioned, our guidance counselor, is so fantastic with getting to know the students and understanding things that are going on throughout the building. And he attends these meetings, and it gives us a chance to hear about things, difficulties that students might be encountering. Obviously, if he can discuss that with us outside of the classroom. So we really get a very good picture of all of our students as a whole. And that's useful when we're planning, when we're talking about what we're going to do. Lastly, flexibility. Because we're part of a big system and our kids are only with us half the day, we do have to have that flexibility. If there's an event going on at the main high school, we don't want them to miss out on some of those events either. But because we're a small school, a smaller building, we have that ability to be flexible and to change our schedule so that, you know, the student can maximize the experience that they're not only getting from our building, but that they're getting at their home high school, which they still also, that's also part of their school experience. And so I'm just really happy that we have the ability to meet like this. I think it gives the students a better experience. I also think it gives the teachers a better experience.
So at this point, we're going to turn it over to the staff and the students. And honestly, I'm going to do what I think I do best, which is to step to the side. I will keep up in the chat. I would love to connect. I shared some emails and things, but really, just as we've done all week long, I think the beauty of this lies within the student responses. We think we know what we're doing as adults, but we only are as good as the responses of our students, and those are the ones that you want to hear from today.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I suppose we can kick things off with a question. One just kind of shout out slash word of praise is I did get to come in and do the focus groups of the school, which is the whole reason why y'all are here, because I was so blown away. And something that really stood out to me is that we often ask kids, what's one word that they would use to describe school or their school experience? And a really common theme that multiple kids said about this school was the word family. And if you have a group of kids describing their school as a family, you know you're doing something must be going right. So one question that came up early on that would be a really good question for you all, but especially the students, is this is a half day program. So the other half of the day you're in the more traditional setting. What is that experience like shifting from a space that is so, I don't know if antithetical is the right word, but it's certainly a lot different than your traditional school experience. How do you navigate that? What does that feel like, sound like, etc.?
Zoe, you looked compelled to answer. Do you want to unmute and respond to that?
Yeah, so I'm going to be a junior going into a biotechnical pathway, and I just I get really stressed out in big classrooms, and I think even during COVID and the smaller classrooms really helped me understand that STEM is probably the right thing for me to do. And so when I joined the STEM Academy my freshman year, it was just a mind-blowing experience. Like at first I was like, okay, this is kind of a little too small, but then I was like, but my teachers know me and are like know me by name, see me every day. And so that transition from the home high school to STEM or vice versa is it's relaxing. It's like a breath of fresh air as soon as you walk in, because there's always teachers at the door greeting you. And yeah, so that's what I love about the transition between both schools.
I also want to ask Braden about this too, because Braden is a rising junior and he is actually going into our teacher academy pathway. So he is not continuing on with STEM, but still continuing on into this sort of OA model where he's half at his home school and half in teacher academy. So Braden, if you wouldn't mind speaking to that.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed my time at STEM, and I feel like the experiences that I've had have been awesome. And I felt like I wanted to still continue to be able to go to the school and be with all the people, but I also really wanted to kind of dive into like the teacher kind of pathway, and this was perfect. So I was able to stay at the building for part of the day, but then also go back to the high school as well.
Any other thoughts on this one from any of the young folks about just like that experience transitioning back and forth?
I can kind of speak on this.
Sure.
As Mrs. Smith has mentioned, I'm one of the first alumni of STEM, and I've graduated college. So it's been a little while since I've been in high school. Try to remember it as best as I can, but I remember the transition for me being quite easy. The teachers at your home school are aware that you are part of the STEM program, so they're very lenient when it comes to you showing up late to the class because we only have that small gap to sort of commute between STEM and our home high school. So if any incidents were to occur, they're very lenient. They understand it. In terms of making friends, again, like STEM, it's all for high schools, so you're not gonna have like sort of same friend group you have in STEM as in the home high school. There might not be friends that are in home high school that are participating in STEM, but I think for me, being a part of STEM taught me how to make friends easier, and I was able to make friends easier in STEM and in home high school. So I was able to have two different friend groups that made the transition between classes fairly easy.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'll just kind of open up the floor again as normal to questions, either in the chat or if you want to raise your hand. I will ask one more question as you all are thinking about that, which is, I see someone already responded to it, but just to kind of get it on the record, for those of you that are in STEM right now slash have graduated, do you see yourself ever just like not going into one of those STEM fields? And what does that mean for like your time at STEM? Do you still see yourself pursuing one of those two tracks? Do you see yourself stepping away from that program? What is that process and experience like of your junior year decision?
Garrett, you look like you want to say something.
Sure, I can. Well, one of my friends, Tasia, as we know, Miss Smith, he's going into business for college, and so it's not really STEM focused for him, but it's good leadership. You get to pitch ideas to your classmates. You get to talk on projects. It's a lot of leadership. You expect STEM kids to be pretty nerdy and quiet to themselves, but you get them in a room together and they'll talk your brains out. So I really enjoy it because it gives us a chance to build our build our leadership, so we can use that in future jobs, college, and it gets us out of our shell. We're from the nerds of the class to the talkative ones. I think it's really helpful to take those kids and get them out of their shell, help them.
Garrett, why don't you share kind of what you are launching that has not been done before as part of your senior work for this year?
So I've been very blessed by Miss Sidoti to be the first STEM mentor to a young kid. He goes to Peach Bowl Crossing, a new elementary school for Olentangy district, and he is very gifted, very smart, very into STEM. He wants to be an aerospace engineer when he's older, and he's probably smarter than me, to be honest. This little kid, he's a genius, and I'm very excited because I get to mentor him and have conversations with him and help him using STEM, of course, help him become who he wants to be. And he's not, he's with classmates that sometimes can't catch up with him. And so having an older figure to help him really just do what he wants to do and be who he wants to be. And if like growing up, getting through, I don't know, getting through just the difficulties of growing up. It's fun to be a mentor. I always tell my dad it's like Robin Williams, and I'm gonna help this little kid grow up, and it's gonna be fun, and I'm really excited.
And the impetus to this, if I could just give a little backstory. So Peach Blow is our newest elementary school. It'll be opening its doors this fall. And so the principal there, Katie Grajak, was temporarily had our offices in our building. So even though we had very few spaces to give, we still found places for people because that's what we do. But she observed firsthand just like what we did in this building. And so she approached me because this young man is a twice exceptional student. He just completed the 3rd grade. He's skipping over 4th grade and going into 5th grade, but he'll be taking math at the middle school level. So coming from this space of who am I? How do I fit in? Where is my sense of belonging? And getting to know Garrett, he was that young man, grew up in a very small community in Indiana, was a very bright high flyer, sometimes didn't know how he fit in with his peers. I think that sort of leveled out a little bit now, but he was just the person that came to mind for me to give something to this kid. And I want to be clear. Yes, there's going to be good STEM sharing here and good knowledge, but it's mostly to help a little boy with a gift, feel good about who he is and feel like he has a sense of belonging. He's not so different that he can't relate to the peers in his grade level. So I'm really excited for what this can be. Mrs. Smith kind of coined this as our STEM ambassador, and Garrett's going to be the first to make this happen. And we hope this is like another layer for our seniors to give back to the students in our district who will have a penchant for certain gifts, and maybe STEM is the answer.
That's amazing.
Got
well, congrats,
sorry.
Garrett. That's awesome. Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
To follow up on that, growing up, I grew up in a small school. It was class size of 100 or something, middle of nowhere, Illinois. And so growing up, I was always the kid that all the other kids would come to, and I almost taught them. I'd learn the material in like a day and then be their teacher. And so going to Olentangy district, I was expecting is bigger school, 600 class. And so I still wanted that smaller opportunity, and STEM really provided that for me. And it was very helpful going from a very small school district to a giant one with so many kids.
I guess I'll transition to a different question here, which is just kind of a play off of a question that was asked in some of the other sessions, which is perhaps some lessons learned from attending STEM about reimagining school. Because what's fascinating about you all is that Olentangy STEM it's a public school. It's located in a fairly mainstream, very large district. I believe Olentangy is the fourth largest district in Ohio, right? Right behind the capital and former capital. It's a big district. Um, what could inspire other folks to change? What are the things that you all are doing there? It's like, man, I really wish that my homeschool just did this thing. It would just make my experience so much better.
Go ahead, Braden.
I feel like we have a lot of good like hands-on projects, and I feel like most of the normal like high schools don't really offer that. And I think it's very beneficial for like learning more when you're actually able to like touch stuff and figure things out on your own. And it's a lot more like less structured, and you're able to kind of figure things out for yourself a little bit.
Connor, you looked compelled to say something too.
Well, I was going to say something. Braden kind of hit the nail on the head because he's super smart. But yeah, the projects at STEM are fantastic, and they open up so many doors for collaboration that as myself going into high school, I didn't know that those would be available because my middle school teachers just never told me that that was something that you could do in high school. So I got to STEM and I saw all this collaboration, and it just totally blew me away. And I really think that if like my home high school had more of that, it would just be a better time, in my opinion.
I want to add something that Connor had mentioned. He mentioned collaboration. So thing that I've noticed that now that I've entered the industry is that collaboration is very key. You need to learn how to communicate with team members that you may not have worked with in the past. You need to be able to be sociable and then be able to work with them in a good manner, right? So having that sort of collaborative setting in school really taught me how to be sociable, how to communicate well, and has transferred over throughout college and into my real life job right now. So I feel like that was one of the key learnings and key things that STEM had really taught me.
Yeah, my favorite part about STEM was our freshman and sophomore years. We did Genius Hour, which is a certain time every week where we get to create something that or do something that we want to do. It could be you make music, you build a robot. It can be anything you want to do. And I really believe that high school, middle school, they should implement this in the classes or just breaks in between your schedule because young kids have these great ideas or passions that they can't do in a normal school setting. And they need time to express themselves and create stuff they want to create instead of just following the curriculum. They get to be who they want to be, essentially.
For me, it was the difference was heavily placed on at the home high school. It was a lot of like tests that really tried to like that was how you succeeded was being really good at test taking. And when I went to STEM, it was more on learning. Like you didn't even have to succeed to be good at what you did.
Any other STEM Academy alum want to speak to their experiences? Or did we get all of them? I don't recall who was graduated yet.
I think I'm the only alum here.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, that's awesome. Well, let's go to Mason then. Mason, what do you got for us?
I was just kind of curious. A couple of you have talked about the project. So like, as someone who's trying to get better at creating those kind of projects that require that sort of collaboration, what are some things that your teachers at STEM at OA did to make those projects more collaborative, more interdisciplinary to help foster some of those skills that some of you were talking about?
I'll take anybody. Everyone looks like they want to talk.
I can also speak on this. Oh, there's a lot of projects, as the students here have mentioned, that are collaborative projects, and a lot of the time the teachers will assign random groups that they kind of force you to work with people that you've never worked with before. But there are also times when they're like, I remember the boat project, cardboard boat project, where we were able to form our own teams and sort of compete with other teams and really strengthen the bonds with the friends that we've already had. So again, the biggest thing about STEM was project-based learning, and having all those different projects that we could work on really gave us many opportunities to work with people that we didn't know, people that we did know, and yeah.
I think for me, especially since I don't specifically want to go towards an engineering field, that these projects, uh, they just implement a sense of creativity. And like one of the very first projects that we did freshman year, we had to do an elevator pitch, and that helps with job interviews, really any business setting. And so just getting out of your comfort zone, getting creative was really cool to experience at STEM.
I also think it's helpful that our teachers at STEM, they have skills besides the curriculum they teach. Like Miss Smith is very good at coding, so if you have anything you need help with, you can go to her. If you want to create an app, you can go to her. We have a teacher that knows how to sew, so if you want to do something in fabric, you can go to them. We have a teacher that knows woodworking and so on and so on. And so it's just not teachers know more than the curriculum, and it's very helpful when doing group projects and Genius Hour.
Nick, do you wanna jump in?
Yeah, is that me? Am I the only Nick? Okay. All right. Earlier today we had multiple Nicks. So yeah, I raised my own hand on behalf of Natasha so I could ask for her for the Genius Hour, and perhaps even just for the PBL time in general, if there's like a project management process or tool. But she's asking in the chat, how did you guys project manage and learn to manage your time?
Connor, do you want to speak on your Genius Hour? It's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I'm guessing you're talking about sophomore year.
The plants, the NASA
Plants.
thing.
Yeah, the plants. Okay. Yeah. So my Genius Hour sophomore year, me and a couple of my buddies worked with NASA to grow some plants in a pot. In like conditions that were supposed to be like the International Space Station. Yeah, like the Martian. Thank you. Yeah. It didn't feel as cool as the movie, but it was still a lot of fun. But as far as managing time, it was a learning curve, for one, but eventually we got to the point where we became a lot more organized than we had been, and set aside time every week to get together and work on this, a lot like the weekly teacher meetings, actually. But I feel like as far as managing time, everybody really does it differently, but we all kind of figure out what works for us because we have the opportunity to figure out what works for us. And that lets us do a lot of cool things like growing plants for NASA or any of the other awesome Genius Hours that went around STEM last year.
Sophia,
and I can actually say that. Oops, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mrs.
No,
Smith.
you go ahead. You probably have something.
No, I was going to say this has evolved with us over time, and then I'm going to let Sophia speak because Genius Hour was kind of came from that Google, kind of that working at Google and giving employees space to be able to have a creative outlet for things that they love, and that's kind of where this was birthed. And you got to remember, STEM was in the making 3 years already when I came in, so I was all about the cool factor of it. Like, let's just keep the good things going. And so, then COVID hit, and that was, how are we going to continue to keep kids excited about their passions in this Genius Hour? And then we came back and kind of post COVID. So we don't have as many formalized processes as other schools when it comes to like pitching the ideas for the PBLs. That's something that we're going to, we can always look at and talk about. But we also don't want it to be so tightly wound around that kids don't feel like they have like the ability to think outside the box. Like what we say is you just have to be done by our STEM showcase. So we do a STEM showcase in the spring of every year. And this could also even be a project that they build into over the course of their time. So we have a young man who's going to be a junior, and he's real into go-karts. And so his Genius Hour since freshman year was building go-karts. And his dad works for Honda. They're big into like the racing world. And so like we really literally had a go-kart that he's building from like scratch. And that's his Genius Hour. So we just say you have to be at a certain point. We do track it in a spreadsheet just to make sure they're pacing and that they are producing something. But it's kind of like that loose, tight kind of way that we handle it. And the other piece that we've grappled with a lot is we don't give a grade for Genius Hour. This is just you and flow of your ideas, your work, your passions, and what you want to do with it. Now, we have figured out with our engineering classes in English that we can put some presentation skills in there, and all the kids have to make like a board. We use this great Canva template, so the boards look really slick and very professional. But it's just a celebration of their work and their learning, and not one thing is around really a curriculum or a standard. It is these kids and their discoveries of the things that they're good at or the things that they want to become even better at through their passion projects. So it really is a cool evolvement. The other thing that we do, and we started this past year with our freshmen, is we don't even start talking Genius Hour until we give kids the opportunity to just try things on. So we have a STEM rotation. So our STEM period is a rotation. We take them through all the maker spaces. Every kid gets to kind of experience it. And then they kind of, after a semester of that, then they say, oh, I really loved welding. I'm going to weld something. Superb. Let's do it. So we kind of figured out too, kids don't know what they don't know. I mean, they come and we say STEM, but they're not really here entirely for science, technology, engineering, math, because they may like those subjects, but we just decided that year 1 and 2 is really around experiential learning and finding where your gifts, your passions are, and discovering some things about yourself that you had no idea. Like, we have girls in their welding, they said we had no idea that we like to weld, but here they are, just becoming like little mini experts in it. And that's kind of the design thinking for us. We lay down the engineering design thinking, but it's really just a way of processing through every problem to solution, right? And so it's process oriented, not product and product oriented. Did I say that right? Okay.
Yeah, I was going to actually see what Sophia would say about her welding journey.
That wasn't me. I didn't weld.
Oh, sorry. There's not many girls. I'm sorry. I confused we have 3 girls in Sophia's class, and one of them was a welder. I'm sorry, it wasn't you. But a lot of the girls, Zoe, was it you? Somebody learned how to weld in this group, and there was literally no time built into the day for them to learn how to weld. So they had to basically find the engineering teacher at vulnerable moments and be like, hey, can we go and weld? And I just appreciate that kids have the agency to, come and ask those kind of things.
Can I just quickly follow up with what Karen was saying about, for freshmen, and I apologize because most of you guys on the call, our students, are no longer freshmen. We came to this idea that a year-long STEM project for freshmen can be intimidating. While they have interests, they're not focused. And so adding this, what we call it a STEminar period every day, really at the start of the year, and devote that to teaching them different skills, I think has been a game changer on the freshman level, because it allowed them then to say, oh, I like this and I'm learning about it, and now I want to have a year-end project about it that can somehow capture my learning. The way in which and that speaks, I think, to the importance of being able to meet on a weekly level and dissect what went well, what didn't go well here. And like I said before, when we had it as a year-long project, we would get through, half the year. And some kids, because they hadn't been exposed to some of these skills that we now allow them to learn about, they just didn't really feel like they had enough competence to engage in a particular project. And having this STEminar, every week, or actually twice a week, I think it's twice a week, right, Kelsey? Has really been a game changer in helping them to focus, and also giving them more confidence in deciding to focus on a project that they're going to showcase at the end of the year.
Well, that's awesome. Well, all right. Shoot. Gus just put a period at the end of that sentence, and then the clock ticked over. So with that, I think I just also prompted if people want to join us in the Discord, that's the best place to keep this conversation going. And I mean, definitely not the last time you'll hear about Olentangy STEM Academy, folks. So love what you're doing. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us, and students to take the time out of your summer to join a whole bunch of teachers to talk with us about the way school should be. So I just so appreciate y'all. Good luck on your journeys, be they into whatever grade level you're passing into here at Olentangy, or if you're destined for things beyond. So take care, all. Have a good day. And for conference goers, we'll meet you at the top of the hour at 4 p.m. Eastern here for our closing session, where we'll kind of put bookends on the work that we've been doing together this week. So take care, all. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.